Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? It's your boy Duck Zone 503, where we talk about all things Oregon football. And I'm here with my main man, Max Torres. He's the publisher and lead editor of Sports Illustrated Ducks Digest. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some Ducks.
Yeah, let's get it. All right. So the first question I just wanted to ask you is tell me about yourself and your upbringing a little bit, just about yourself personally.
Yeah, for sure. So originally from San Jose, California, out in the Bay Area. Some people know that's the area code on my hat. So this is like my favorite hat that I own. It's a custom one that means a lot to me. And started getting into college football really in high school once I realized I wasn't cut out to be a competitor, like these high profile recruits I'm covering now. But just did that. And then I did my undergrad at Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, where I studied broadcast studies and Spanish, and then ended up at the University of Oregon to get a master's in journalism. And that's kind of my story abbreviated in like a little minute tidbit.
Okay, that's awesome, man. That's good to hear. Yeah, I just wanted to get to know you a little bit. I've been watching your work. I really like what you do. I watch guys like a whole bunch of guys that do YouTube for Oregon football, and it really inspired me. I've been watching you since the beginning of the season. I caught on to your work, Ducks Digest, and I like how you have interviews with players and you got where you're at, and it really inspired me to start somewhere. And I want to start going to school myself for journalism. So it was cool to see that.
Right on, man. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. You just gotta a lot of it's just getting yourself rolling and staying dedicated to it.
For sure. Okay, so speaking about journalism, when did you know exactly that's what you wanted to do? And you already kind of got into how'd you got there and what schools you went to. So I just wanted to know, like, what moment got you into like, okay, this is what I want to do.
That's a great question. It was kind of a weird journey for me because at Gonzaga, where I was going to school, my program was really centered around broadcast news, like TV news, like local news. And I ended up actually working as a producer for a local news station out there in Spokane. I was writing the 10 and 11 o'clock newscasts. So that was a really fun experience. Didn't do a whole lot of sports stuff over there, but while I was studying broadcast studies, we had to kind of take some journalism electives, and that's just kind of, I viewed it as another avenue to get into the sports world. And it seemed like it was a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but more direct for me. I think with a lot of the production stuff, you have to mess with the camera settings and get all of that right and fine tune it and edit it a lot. But I think working with print and, with text, it's just a lot more controllable. And there's not as many factors at play. That's not to say that, you can just pump stuff out super quickly without, looking at it, but it's a little bit faster. And I think it's an easier way to kind of just get your thoughts out immediately versus like some really intricate video editing and like effects and all that. So that's kind of when I realized it. I started writing for Scoop Duck in 2018 when I was a junior at Gonzaga. There was nothing going on in the summers as far as football goes, but I wanted to learn about how to write, how do these teams, build themselves into elite programs, and that really starts with recruiting. So did recruiting coverage for 2 years, and then continued that when I was at Oregon getting my master's. Got to do some stuff in person with Scoop Duck, which was great because I was finally in Eugene, but COVID was kind of messing everything up, and a lot of stuff was just over Zoom. And then just kept working, and then the next opportunity came along, and now I'm here.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you've been covering the team since 2018, it sounds like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Me personally, I grew up a Ducks fan. I grew up here in Portland, Oregon. My first game I watched was in 2012 at Arkansas State. It was Mariota's first game. I graduated in 2017 from Centennial High School in Gresham. I'm currently 22 years old. And yeah, like I said, I plan on going to college for journalism and stuff like that based on watching your work. It seems like a really, really fun job, man. I've always been a college football fan. And the fact that you get to go and interview the players, go to these camps and see them up front and just do what you do is like something that I would love to do. Now getting into the Ducks here, moving back into the Ducks, I just wanted to know, do you have a favorite team, like an Oregon football history of yours personally?
Oh man, that's a good question. Um, I think that, man, that 2014 team was real special. I got to go to some of those big games that year because my sister went to Oregon, so that's another kind of avenue of how I got involved with the Ducks, I guess, or they kind of got introduced into my life a little bit more. So that year I got to go to the Washington Oregon game at home where they won 45-20, I think it was, and they had the pick uniforms. So that was really special. And then I got to go to the Rose Bowl against Florida State that year. So I really didn't get like super into college football and following Oregon until my high school years. So I'd probably go with that 2014 team, even though it seems like a very easy kind of cop out answer.
You know, it's funny because I have written down that's my same answer. The 2014 team with the Rose Bowl team. Man, that was a special team. And that game against Florida State, you said you went to that, correct?
Yeah, I
Man,
did.
that game was something else, man. I was out of my seat for that, man. That's awesome. That's a special moment. I definitely want to go to a Rose Bowl. It's definitely on my list one of these days.
Yeah, this special spot for sure. And especially, with getting to cover that UCLA game last year, which was an insane ending, and then being down on the field for the celebrations, like, oh man, that was super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so my next question then would be, do you have a favorite Oregon player of all time?
Ooh, the Ducks have had some real special players. I don't know if there's just one. I mean, for the longest time, it was Marcus. He's just so fun to watch. But the program has really changed, I guess, as far as the style of offense that they run. Although we're still waiting to see what this 2022 Dan Lanning offense is going to bring, right? Or not Dan Lanning offense, but the Dillingham offense rather. I really like Royce. Was awesome, man. I'm pretty bummed that he's having a tough go at it in the NFL, just because he was so dominant at Oregon. And then you got D'Anthony Thomas as another guy who's super cool to watch. Kiko Alonso, who's from San Jose, well, Los Gatos, but from the Bay Area. So those are some of the big names that kind of circle around for me as some of the all-time Ducks since I've kind of started following the team more closely.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, mine would have to be Marcus Mariota and D'Anthony Thomas. Rose Royce, I liked him, but he came kind of after. Like, the reason my answer would be Marcus Mariota and D'Anthony Thomas is because that's when I first started really watching the team in middle school, and they had Mariota and D'Anthony Thomas, and those guys were just so explosive. And you're right, the team has shifted into a different identity in a way, an offense. But like you said, Dillingham could bring something different. We just don't know. I'm waiting to see. So I'm excited for that. Moving on here, let's go to the next question. Favorite Oregon coach of all time of yours?
Oh man, it's tough because I'm a lot more recent, so I feel like there's a lot of good coaches that I'll probably miss out on. But I mean, Chip Kelly, I feel like I gotta put up there just because of how he revolutionized the offense and really set a trend in college football. That has just made a huge impact on where the sport's at now with all the hurry up and the high octane, because that's really what I feel like made Oregon, really put Oregon on the map. They were really emerging in the late 90s. I feel like with the the pick against Washington, that team really made a lot of noise for them. But I'm gonna throw Chip Kelly out there just because you could see how big of an impact he had on the program. Excuse me. And just how he got them rolling and really built that identity.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. That's the same answer I'd have. It's just because it's kind of the same reason. That's when I first started watching the team, and I'm new just because I'm young. That's the thing. So studying the history though, going back, man, they've had a whole bunch of good coaches. I guess to put a different answer out there, I would go Rich Brooks because he was the last defensive minded coach, really. So I'd have to say him as well. So going into this season a little bit about the Ducks, do you have a favorite game that you like to watch in your mind?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go that Ohio State game. I mean, just it was different because I was there. That was my throat. Excuse me. All right, hopefully that'll be the last time I have to clear it.
You're okay.
Maybe I can mute myself the next time I do that. But dude, yeah, that Ohio State game was just unbelievable. I'd never been out to the Midwest. Just when I think about that trip for me and just, getting up super early and flying all the way out there and just really being there, walking around the town and walking around the campus when my friends goes there. So I was able to, to meet up with her and just see what the whole environment was like, just all the history. I mean, when you go into that stadium, you're around that stadium, it's just history oozes off of it. So I think, whether you like Ohio State or not, like as a college football fan, you just got to respect that. And then to be there, when Oregon pulled it off, when no one, I didn't expect them to win, especially not when without KT and Justin Flo. But man, they did it. And just being down in the field for that, around all the players, just like the UCLA game. I mean, that was one of the best parts of the road games, is just getting to be around it all. It was just nuts. 110,000 people just screaming their heads off, just deafening down there at field level. It was just such a special experience. And it meant so much for the program to show that they can go compete with those blue bloods and ultimately get the job done.
Yeah, man, I have to agree. The Ohio State, I mean, that's an easy one. And I actually was there as well. I was there with my dad. I took him actually for it was his birthday the next couple of days after that. So I surprised him with tickets and a flight and a hotel. It cost me a pretty penny, but it was worth every dollar, because like you said, you covered everything. It was probably, in my mind, in my opinion, the best individual win in Oregon history, going there on the road. It was amazing. And funny story, I was at the airport and there was some Ohio State fans I was talking to, and this one guy is like, man, we're going to crush you guys. I was like, okay, give me a score prediction. He said like Ohio State 49, Oregon 21 or something like that. I was like, okay, give me your Twitter and your Instagram, and I'm going to message you after the game, because I just want to do that. And I remember being in the Uber going to the game and getting that notification of the players being out. And even the Uber driver was like, oh, you boys are going down. And I just kept hearing that. And the Uber driver dropped us off right at the frat houses, right in front of, man, dude, we got out. I had my Ducks chain and my jersey, dude. These guys were flipping us off, throwing stuff at, dude. It was kind of heckling at first, but once we got closer to the stadium and met nicer people, it was more like you were saying, very nice people. The Midwest, they had, you feel the history just looking at the stadium. You see the ancient artwork on it. It's just crazy. So yeah, it was definitely a great experience being there.
I had another little quick side story to hop on that, if that's okay, from the Ohio State day. Because what was weird is that, Ohio is in the Eastern time zone. So I was, typical Saturday, I like to be up super early to watch game day. And then, fire off some stories for preview content that day and then head over to Autzen. But, in Ohio, I was in my hotel, got up early, and it was cool because, you're working from ahead because, all the typical, most of the audience is out on the West, so they haven't woken up yet. And you can kind of, I wanted to get some stories out, got my coffee, and then got the Uber out there, and it was a nightmare, dude. Like, I don't know, I did not plan my hotel very well because I wasn't very close to the stadium. And when I was getting there, as we were driving there, my driver's like, yeah, like I might have to let you off like a little early because it's like so backed up and everything. I'm like, oh, whatever, man, no worries, just get me as close as you can. And we're on the freeway and we're approaching the exit, and like the main exit of the stadium is just closed completely. So that didn't really make a lot of sense, but I guess they just had to do it for traffic. And the guy's like, all right, Max, like we should try to go here. And I guess it was probably on me too, but I was like, I was already kind of running late and I just wanted to get to the stadium. So I get out and I start trying to run towards the exit, like literally on the freeway, but it was just at a standstill. And like the second my foot hits the ground out of the car, a cop just like, get back in the car.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, dang. Okay. And then I was like, I'm trying to, my guy's driving off. And then I ended up getting back in the car, and the cop stops the Uber driver and then just starts berating him like, you do not let people out on the freeway. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So it was a very tense start to the day and emotions were running high, but I made it to the stadium in time.
Wow, dude, that's a pretty nice story. That would be like intense situation, way to get your juices flowing for the game, huh?
Oh, exactly. I don't think I've told many people that story, so it was a wild one.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's a good story. Okay, so who were your offensive and defensive MVPs this season?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to look at the body of work, and Travis Dye was definitely the MVP of the offense for me. When I don't know if a lot of people were questioning how he would do as the lead back, but we just never knew what a Travis Dye, centered offense looked like. When CJ went down, it was definitely tough to see, but you knew that I knew that Dye was a baller and that he was gonna, I thought I was pretty confident he was going to be able to get the job done, and he just really, I think, capitalized on the opportunity and took a big step forward from last season when he was just I think he was the team's leading receiver last year. I don't have the stats, off the top of my head, but he was making a name for himself through the air. And then he was, had some really tough runs. And that dude's just a dog, and he always lays it on the line. So I'd have to go with him for my offensive MVP. And then let's see, for the defensive MVP, I'd probably go Noah Sewell. I mean, KT was, a beast, but I just feel like on a consistent basis, no one made a bigger impact. And granted, guys can kind of scheme for KT a little bit more with double teams and running away from him and everything, but Noah is just always involved on every play. The dude's like a cyborg. No matter what kind of injury you think he has, he always is ready to go. Just played through so much injury. I remember, seeing him when I was at the Stanford game, just grabbing his shoulder when they were in overtime. Like, just, you could tell he was in pain, but he just kept going and kept going. That was a super tough loss for them, obviously. But I think especially when KT was out, like, Noah was the face of that defense, and he just kept showing up. But they had some real good guys on that defense for sure.
Yeah. Speaking about Noah being an Iron Man, you remember that game where he got carted off and then he's like back the next week?
Yeah,
like,
the UCLA game.
Yeah. Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, those are good answers. I have to agree with you as well on the offense. For my offensive MVP, I would go Travis Dye as well. 3,000 career rushing yards, making him the 5th Oregon running back to do so. Stepped up when Verdell went down. Me personally, when Verdell went down, I like Dye, but I didn't know he had that in him. I didn't know he could step up and be the guy, and he really did. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the MVP. I think he also, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think he also led the team in receptions. So that's also something to note. I'm not 100% sure, though. I think I heard that. And then on defense, Verone McKinley, I'm going to go ahead and go Verone McKinley just because he was like the leader of the team back there at safety, but rarely made mistakes. And having that game-winning interception at Ohio State just has, I'm going to have to give him that MVP just for that.
Man, it was wild. Everyone was going crazy after they had that. And we were on the field at that point for the media members. So it was crazy, man. He was just such a fiery dude, and, just all business in the press conferences, just super fired up, and, really, really hope for the best for him in the NFL.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what are you most excited to see from the Ducks heading into 2022?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think, I'm really excited to see what this offense looks like. I mean, that bowl game, the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma, just showed you that the Joe Moorhead offense looks different without Cristobal. So now neither of them are going to be there. So I'm not, super happy about losing Moorhead, but just I want to see that offense go all out. I want those young guys, those young receivers were, obviously underutilized all season, but in that bowl game it was a different story. And I think that even though that they lost a lot at that position, I think they still have a lot of potential there. And then they might still be able to make some noise in the 2022 class and hopefully get a couple other pass catchers, to join the flock to see what they can do next year. But I got to say that offense, just because it was so underwhelming. I mean, they had a dominant run game, sure, but I feel like you really got to be able to do both to compete at a high level. And you could see how the lack of a consistent passing attack really hurt them throughout the year.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd agree. They'd have to, they have really great receivers, but I think their depth going into next year is definitely going to be a little bit of an issue if they don't get some guys coming in. I guess what I'm most excited to see in the 2022 season is a full season of Flo and Sewell together, especially under Coach Lanning. What he did with those linebackers at Georgia, and the talent with Flo and Sewell, it's going to be something to see for real. So that's what I'm most excited to see for 2022.
Yeah, hopefully seeing those guys together for extended period of time. Really got to feel for Justin Flo with the injury luck that he's had. But just getting a glimpse at what the future holds for him in that Fresno State game, having him and Sewell next to each other, and then if Bossa stays at linebacker, my God, he was one of the biggest success stories of the year. Let's see if he stays there, or maybe they move him back because the plan was under Cristobal to move him back to safety, I believe, after the season wrapped up, because he moved there because of depth issues. But he's really good. We've hardly seen any of Jackson LeDuc because he's been hurt. So there's some talent in that linebacker room for sure. And with that being, Lanning's specialty, should be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. That being said, what do you think Oregon needs to work on most heading into 2022?
Heading into 2022, I'd say the passing attack on offense, just particularly with the deep ball, I think that's going to be big. But at the same time, I don't think that we have as much reason to be worried about that because we don't really know. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be just yet, and I think that even though Bo Nix was a similar quarterback to Anthony Brown, I think he really was a playmaker, and he's shown that I think he has a little bit more confidence in himself when it comes to taking those risks that I would have liked to see from Anthony Brown. So I'd say the passing attack, particularly the deep ball, and then rushing the passer and getting some more contribution from the defensive line. All the best teams have just dominated the line of scrimmage, and I think Oregon has, with their whole build up along the offensive line these past couple of years, especially with some big names on the recruiting trail, we haven't so much seen that on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line particularly. KT is obviously the big exception to that, but I think you see guys like the Georges and the Bamas, and they have multiple KT caliber kind of guys filling out that front seven. So really confident in the linebackers, but hopefully guys like Dorless can step up, and then they got Sam Taimani from UW, another 300 plus pound dude. So they're starting to beef up that front defensive line, but I think that'll be getting some more consistent pass rushing from multiple guys. I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, 100%. I have to agree with you. I think the interior D line is something they're going to have to really, beef up and get some depth there, and improve those guys as well. The guys that are there. I just wrote down, they struggled against Utah and Oklahoma in their D line play a lot. And I feel like ever since Jordan Scott left, I feel like there's just kind of been a decline in the D line play, just a little bit in the interior of the D line play. And, like you said, Georgia, those Alabamas, those big schools, they always have like big, strong guys. And, I think about it and I'm like, when has Oregon had like a big time NFL D lineman, like a Hulugi Nada, something like that? And, it's been kind of a while. You say Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, those guys came a little bit ago, but, we need to get guys like that. And I feel like Lanning is going to bring those guys in and to really beef up that D line and get more guys and also develop these guys, really, really good. And I think another thing that they need to work on the offensive side of the ball is getting more playmakers in space. That's going to be on Dillingham and the offensive staff to do that. And, you got guys like Seven McGee and, guys that can get in space. He's not here anymore, but Jalen Red, man, I would love to see him come off the sweep or a little bit more screenplay or, just get guys in space. That was the big thing, because I felt like our offense was just so tight knit in just one direction, so that's one thing that I would say.
Yeah. With the that kind of goes back to just the offense being limited and really predictable. When under Cristobal, I feel like I don't really know if there's direct evidence, but there's just, I don't know how you watch last season and you don't think, Cristobal is definitely hampering the play calling and putting his foot down, with some head scratching dive plays up the middle or some just really short to intermediate, routes. And maybe that was on Anthony Brown a bit, maybe just focusing on some of those primary reads and whether it was there or not, he was going to throw it or just not having the best decision-making. So I think that getting those guys in space is definitely going to be big. We saw some of that with Troy Franklin and Dante Thornton, but with Thornton, he's obviously a big deep threat. And it was so great to see Troy making some big plays, particularly down the field, like that touchdown grab he had. And Chris Hudson's going to be one to watch. I feel like he's more or less, going to be like wide receiver one heading into next year, depending on who else they can add. But really, really encouraging to see those guys start to make some plays.
Sorry about that. There's a siren going by. My bad.
You're good.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely excited for that too. I think that last game, get that second half in Oklahoma, when they opened up the offense, I think, it showed definitely a lot of potential what the offense can do. So I'm not really hot on the recruiting or transfers. I try my best to, get information and pass it along on my end anywhere I can. I'm not, the hottest at looking at recruits, but I think I have a pretty good idea of which recruits are looking at Oregon and whatnot. So I just wanted to ask you, are there any recruits and transfers that you see that are coming in on the 2022 or the 2023 class that you have your eye on?
So when you ask that, do you mean like they're already committed to Oregon or they're on the market?
They're on the market, and do you see them coming to Oregon? Like, do you if you were a predictor, like if you had to crystal ball them, pretty much?
Sure, sure. Let's see. I mean, for the 2022 class, I've started to do a little bit more recruiting focus now that the season's over. Um, I think that the Ducks are in pretty good shape for Arlis Boardingham, a guy that I recently wrote about out of the Southern California area. Um, just because he was talking to me about how the coaching carousel has kind of helped him because some other schools have circled back around, and offered him, and he thought he's getting some opportunities that he maybe wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So I feel like right now, even though I'm not as uh, invested in recruiting as I want to be, to really be humming, because I've been, covering basketball and other stuff. And I'm not trying to like make any excuses or anything, but I feel like just because I haven't talked to a ton of guys of late, that's probably the guy that I'm maybe the most confident about right now. But that could really change, next week when the dead period ends, and they can start hopefully getting some guys out to Eugene, because we've seen it time and time again, dude. Like when they get guys on campus, it can really just change things in the blink of an eye. And then the recruiters that Lanning has assembled on this staff are something serious for sure. And I think it's really going to help them get this 22 class, not like crazy elite. I think people kind of have to temper expectations there. Maybe like a top 15 finish would probably be good, just because of the timing of everything and the crazy attrition that they saw. But that 23 class definitely got off to a good start with Cole Martin. And that'll be the first group where we can like really truly evaluate Lanning, because that's going to be all of his guys.
Yeah, I heard he's, all good things about his recruiting, and especially about this whole staff, pretty much, researching them. They're really good recruiters. So I have no doubt that they'll put a great class together. And like you said about this class, I think that the Cristobal, him leaving at the time he did, really, was not a great time to leave for recruiting wise. So some guys I have my eye on. I don't know, I doubt they'll come to Oregon, because just these are guys that I like, though, off my eyes. So for the 2022 class, I'd love to see Cyrus Moss come here, to replace Kayvon Thibodeau. You said earlier before we got on that you don't think he's coming, though. Um,
Yeah, I think just I talked to him after Landon got hired, late in the December time frame, and he told me he's at the time he still hadn't heard from Lanning, which I think obviously isn't the best sign or the most encouraging sign. And then the fact that USC went in home as well, and went out to Miami for that last weekend of visits. I feel like it's going to be SC or Miami. I feel like in the past 24 hours for me, it's kind of gotten a little bit closer to Miami when I thought it was maybe going to be USC, because you got to look at, there's so many factors at play for him, right? With USC, they're getting a pretty significant Gorman pipeline going with Zion Branch and Zachariah Branch. The two brothers from there that are both committed. And then with Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch going in home, and he went on campus and really liked the energy and the culture there, because that's something he told me that wasn't a fit with USC originally. He didn't like the culture really that they had there before Lincoln Riley got brought on. And then with Miami, I was talking to him because he literally basically in the span of a week, Mario Cristobal is in home committing for Oregon, and then he's on the other side of the country switching out the Nike for Adidas, and then he told me the pitch was going from the next KT to the next Jalen Phillips or the next Greg Rousseau. So it's just wild how that changes. But in the time since, obviously Cristobal and Miami are picking up some steam on the recruiting trail, and then Joe Salavea got announced as the D-line coach over there, so that's got to be appealing if you're Moss. And then Cody Waddell got hired over there as well, and he was the guy who was doing a lot of recruiting for him while he was at Oregon. If you guys have been reading my stuff for a while, I wrote about how on his official visit, Waddell took him out on a Jeep ride in the kind of back roads of Oregon. So I don't know. I think just with all the momentum that USC is creating, I feel like I'm going with SC. I mean, depending on when this gets uploaded, he could have already made his announcement. So I'm going to see if I can maybe find some updates, but that's kind of where I stand on that with regard to Cyrus Moss.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely have his decision by the time this is out. I'm gonna upload it right after this is done, and by then I'm pretty sure he'll have his announcement. So Jalen Brown, that's another guy I had my eye on in the 2023 class. I seen Oregon offered him. I don't know how hot he is on Oregon or what's going on there, but then the 2023 class wide receiver Jalen Brown. You know about him?
I have the name doesn't sound familiar right now. I'm looking him up right now. Are you talking about the guy out of Florida?
I think so. I'm not too sure. I didn't write down where he's from. I seen they offered him and I checked him out on Twitter. That's all I've done so far. Not too much looking into him. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, bro. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can still talk about it a little bit. I think when you're looking at someone from that area, it's dude, Florida is just overflowing with playmakers, right? You know, all the time. You look at Bama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Now they're getting guys from Florida. Just crazy, crazy talent throughout that state, particularly in the in the South. I think that with regard to Gulliver, that's where it says he goes. Gulliver Prep out in Miami. I think the Ducks did have another guy out of there, Cedric Irvin, who has since committed to Notre Dame, I believe. That maybe they can try to use some of the connections there, but I think it's just super important for them to get back into Florida, but it's going to be pretty tough. Just because of the distance and everything. We've seen it done before, but you got to also think on the other side of the equation with Mario out there now. It's going to be way harder to get guys out of Miami specifically. And then Billy Napier's picking up steam in Gainesville, Mike Norvell out in Tallahassee. So Florida is one of the biggest states to watch, not just for Oregon, because they obviously need to get back into there. I really feel like to push into the national prominence, but just the overall balance of college football. If more of those guys stay in state, I think that it could really, make some big changes to the sport.
Yeah, 100%. Florida, Texas, those California, those states, they always have a whole bunch of talent. So do you have an opinion on who you think should be QB1 next year for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was obviously one of the biggest topics, coming out in the last month or so. I think I personally kind of would want to see the guys play a little bit more because we've only seen a half of football from Ty Thompson, and then the media didn't get to watch practice throughout the season, so it's been quite a while since I've even seen any of these guys play in person. And so I feel like maybe once we get to spring football, hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more, see what Bo Nix looks like with the offense. I mean, for me, I want to see Ty get a shot just because I've covered him for a pretty long time, and he had such a lively arm and looked really poised in the pocket, was really quick when he had to move. And I feel like he just, looks like he's, pretty beyond his years, at least. Not, I mean, people say that, and I think that it can maybe get drawn out of context. I just feel like with that poise, I'm not comparing him to Marcus, but just when you have that in a young quarterback, I think it's incredibly valuable. And the fact that he has that pocket presence really appeals to me. And I mean, yeah, the ball just fires off of his hands. So I think he's someone that I'd really like to see get a shot, but I hope all those guys get a shot. And, with Ashford entering the portal, it looks like it might be a three-man competition between those guys.
Yeah, man. Sad to see Ashford go. He's a tremendous athlete, but I know he's going to do well anywhere he goes. Once a duck, always a duck, right? So glad to see what he can do. Me personally, I'm on the same kind of thing. I just want to see these guys play a little more before I personally want to put out my opinion on it. If I had to say somebody, though, just off the top of my head, I would say Ty Thompson, just because, that's kind of what everybody's been talking about. The hype's been around him since he's signed. But with Bo Nix coming in, Oregon didn't sign him, but he is the highest rated quarterback that ever came to Oregon, with him being a 5-star. So that is something that, I thought about. So it's not all about ratings and stars, though. So what I really want to see is a fair competition, because a lot of people are saying, with Dillingham and Bo Nix worked together in the past, it's kind of a lock. Well, I don't want to see that. I hope this coaching staff gets a fair outright competition for every guy, because, I didn't really feel like it was like that with Anthony Brown. I feel like everybody on the team and everybody knew like Brown was the guy coming in, even though you had Ty Thompson. And this year, with everybody having sat a year and got experience, I think they deserve a shot.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, what do you have to lose by having an open competition? Jay Butterfield, the guy we haven't really talked about too much. I think even though he's more of the prototypical, pocket passer, I think he probably has last year. I'd say I'm pretty confident he had the best deep ball on the team. Just really natural throwing motion, smooth guy. Who's really waiting for his chance to shine. I mean, he looked good in the spring game, and then in the fall scrimmages that we were able to take in. So he deserves as much of the shot as anybody on this roster. So you have, obviously the winter conditioning program is getting going out there in Eugene with some of these early enrollees arriving. Wilson Love taking over the strength program with Shad Williams staying on staff. I think that's really big to have some continuity. That news came out on Friday. And just when everyone gets there, we'll have spring ball to get through and fall camp. So plenty of time to just see what you really have. But I understand the move by the staff to bring in, a veteran quarterback, just because if either any of those freshmen start or then someone goes down, you don't have anything proven. So that way, when you bring in Nix, you at least have a guy who's played a lot of college ball, and will be composed and have some experience. So it gives you a floor for your offense. But I don't think by any means it means he should just be given the job, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I can see a lot of people kind of speculating as to why that would maybe be the case with him and Dillingham, having worked together before at Auburn. So yeah, right there with you, man. Open competition is the way to go.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Dillingham and Bo Nix having experience, people look at it as a negative with the quarterback competition, but let's get real here. We're a team, and that is great that they have past experience. That's a great thing for the Ducks if Bo Nix is your man. And I also think bringing Bo Nix in, it sets your floor for the competition. It lets you know this is what you need to beat out right here. You know what I mean? So I think it gets the young guys to look up and go, okay, yep, that's what I need to work towards. So my next question, I guess, would be, besides Dan Lanning, who's your home run hire on the staff and why?
Yeah. Let's see. I feel like a lot of people, I mean, Tosh Lapoy has to be the biggest name that he's brought in, right? You look at, I think Demetrius Martin is going to be a big hire as well when you just look at his experience throughout the Pac-12 and the West Coast, and especially with the Ducks trying to stay active in Southern California. But Tosh Lapoy has been a name that Oregon fans know all too well, considering that he's never been on the staff, right? Every time they've been going through some kind of a coaching change, his name always comes up. Elite recruiter. And he's one of the biggest reasons why I think a lot of people have confidence that this new staff can match, if not maybe even surpass the level of recruiting that the Ducks saw under Mario Cristobal. So, he's got a lot of really good experience, especially at the college level. Maybe more so as a recruiter than some people would say as an X's and O's coach, but I don't know if it's too early for me to say that. I kind of got to dig deep and learn a little bit more about him. But from what I know about him, it's that he can get it done on the recruiting trail. And I think that's probably why most people kind of view him as the really big hire that the Ducks have made so far. And then Marshall Malchow as well, with the chief of staff and him coming over from A&M. I mean, just look at their recruiting classes of late, and then the experience that the success rather that he had at Georgia. It's undeniable.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna ask, is Lapoy the guy from Alabama? He was the Alabama staff, right?
He was on the Alabama staff at one point, yeah, but he's on the Jags right now as their defensive line coach.
His last team was the Jags, and yeah. I did research on the coaches a little bit, and him being at Alabama really, it was what put me on the thing. Being at the Jaguars weren't that great, but one thing about the Jaguars when I was looking at their defensive stats is they were actually middle of the pack on stopping the run, and that he was the D-line coach, so that kind of has something to say, right? I guess my next question would be for you, out of all the hires, who is the most questionable in your opinion?
I don't know if any of them necessarily stand out as questionable. But I think one that I want to learn more about is Junior Adams coming over from Washington. I want to learn a little bit more about him and kind of his track record. I don't know as much about him as a coach as some of these other guys that have been brought on. I think, a lot of Duck fans were happy to see that hire since, you still won from the Huskies, right? They always want to latch onto that rivalry, and any success for Oregon is a loss for UW and vice versa sometimes. But he's a guy I'm a little bit more intrigued about. Maybe we could say it like that, because even though Washington of late has, I think, been known more for their run game or passing the tight ends, they have had some solid wideouts. And Junior Adams has obviously been a big part of that. And I'm curious to see what he can do, not only developing guys, but also as a recruiter, because you got to think if you go from the brand that is associated with Washington to Oregon, you take a big step up, and just seeing how he'll be able to sell that brand, I think is just going to be a fun one to watch. And with the success that McClendon had, the bar has certainly been set pretty high.
Yeah, I would agree. There's no real questionable hires. I guess I shouldn't have put it out there like that, but I would agree there is some guys that we just don't know about yet. And for me, it would be running backs coach Carlos Lachlan. The reason is because, I just Western Kentucky, looking at their one thing I like to do is go look at the last team and their stats, a certain what do they do with what they had. And the thing with Western Kentucky is they just didn't run the ball. They were like dead last in rush play percentage. They only ran the ball like 32% of the time, and they averaged 102 yards, per game rushing. So, they didn't really use them the rushing attack for the running backs. One thing I guess you could say is probably coached really well for blocking, if as much well as they passed. So there's that, and then there's not much like a big time resume for him. He kind of was at little small schools, so this is kind of his first like big, or Oregon's kind of a bigger school. So I'm just interested to see what he does with our running backs.
Yeah, no doubt. And you look at who he's got. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
he's got a lot of good backs. I mean, we don't even know what's happening with CJ Verdell and Travis Dye yet. I figure CJ is probably moving on, but it's crazy to think that he has more eligibility because of COVID and everything. But Lachlan's inheriting a really talented group of backs. And then he's already putting in some work on the trail, and these guys have a lot of good things to say about him. Particularly with Johnny Thompson, the last guy that I talked to that had a lot to say about him. And he's committed to SC, but he's going to be on campus in Eugene, to open the next recruiting period. So that's definitely got to be an early win for Lachlan.
Yeah, man. I think Dillingham posted something that cracked me up, man. He tagged Lachlan, and I think his name's Terry Crews. he made like a side by side. I was like, dude, it kind of does look like Terry Crews, but no, it's just something funny. But that's something to say. Like the coaches are so young and they're on Twitter doing funny things like that. I feel like these players are really going to connect with these guys for sure. So looking forward to the next season, is there which games excite you most on the schedule for 2022?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to talk about that Georgia game for sure. I feel like it's kind of like the same deal with Ohio State in terms of like, I don't think a lot of people are necessarily going to think that we're going to be really competitive in that game. I don't know if I'm ready to go out there and say that yet, but I can see that would probably be the widespread, belief right now. That BYU game is going to be pretty interesting, I think, when you also look at, how they brought in Sataki for an interview and the success that he's had out there in Provo, went undefeated against the Pac-12 last year. I think that's probably the non-conference game I'm a little bit intrigued about. If we just don't want to go with the basic answer of Georgia, right? Maybe try to dig a little bit deeper. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what the rest of the schedule looks like. I haven't looked super far ahead of the schedule lately, so let me see if I can just bring it up here real quick, so that I'm informed.
Yeah,
I mean,
they got some tough games for sure coming up. I know they got BYU BYU, Eastern Washington. Like you said, at Georgia. That's definitely a tough non-conference schedule there. They got a lot of home games though. That's one thing I could say.
Yeah, that's I think one of the best parts about this schedule is that they get a lot of their tough games at home. And then the time of that Utah game, it comes right after the rivalry game against Washington, which I think is going to be pretty interesting. Those are always pretty emotional, high stakes games against the Huskies. First year for both those head coaches with DeBoer and Lanning kind of getting introduced to that rivalry, but that Utah game always comes late in the season. So, say what you will about Oregon's schedule, but them getting Utah at the end of the year, I think definitely makes for a good game coming up. And it's going to make, that road to the Pac-12 championship game potentially a little bit more difficult depending on how the rest of the conference shakes out.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I would say Georgia, Washington, and Utah are definitely the ones that excite me the most. Georgia, obviously, you don't got to say much about that. That's going to be a big time one. The whole country is going to have their eyes on that one. Then Washington, I grew up hating the Huskies. You know, I knew it hasn't been much of a rivalry for me because we just been beating the crap out of them. But, you know, other than that, it is a rivalry though. Looking back, you know, they beat the crap out of us in the 90s and then all the 80s pretty much when Oregon was down. And then Utah, you know, that's a revenge game that everybody wants to see for sure. Now, will they win all those games? I don't know. That's questionable, but they're definitely going to be big time games. So looking forward, how many wins is realistic for this 2022 team in your opinion? Just as of now, let's say.
Yeah, I mean that's a good caveat to put on it, right? Because we still need to kind of see a official, you know, return or departure declarations for some guys. DJ James is still in the portal, and I think that cornerback is a position that's incredibly thin right now, with Wright off to the NFL. So like that's a big one to watch. But I maybe say 8 or 9, just to kind of, you know, temper expectations. Like I was saying with that 2022 recruiting class, I think it can kind of apply in a similar way to this team. But there's so much more that we have to learn about it, and that can obviously change a lot between now and fall camp. So I'd say 8 or 9 is probably good, especially because we have no idea what the quarterback situation looks like. I mean, I don't want to put too much attention on those guys, but you know, all the best teams they have, for the most part, you know, difference makers at quarterback, or you know, they can definitely get it done and get the ball distributed to those guys, and you know, high powered offenses. So I think 8 or 9 is probably a good thing to put it at, a good one to put it at right now. You know, with a lot kind of left to be determined and that we have to learn.
Yeah, I would say 9 is for me. I would predict it as of right now. You know, like you said, I also had a question real quick before I go on. So you said DJ James is in the portal, correct? Is he can come back to Oregon if he chooses to? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I believe he can. Yeah. So now that the Ducks have Martin, you know, named as the cornerbacks coach, and then Landing should probably be back in Eugene next week. I don't know. It almost feels like one of those situations. The longer it goes, maybe you feel more confident that he'll come back. I don't have any intel to back that up necessarily, or sources on that matter. But if you kind of read the tea leaves, I feel like, you know, if he really wanted to go, he might have already named his place. But you know, I'm not DJ James, so I don't know what's going through his head right now as he kind of weighs that decision. But he'd be a huge piece for the Ducks to get back because he had a pretty strong season.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'd like to see him come back. Well, all right. Getting back to the question that I asked, you know, I want to see how are predicting how many wins. I said 9. I have losses to Georgia. You know, it's Lanning's first game. It's going to be, you know, no matter who you play, the first game's always hard, you know, as a first time head coach. And then you got Georgia. Him having some intel though, being there might help. You know, knowing the guys, knowing the players there. You got to think about it. He's coming from there. Nobody's really going to Georgia from over here. So we kind of have a little bit of intel. I don't know how much that plays into it though. And Kirby Smart, you know, he's coming off the national championship game. We'll see if he wins it or not. And they're going to lose guys, but you know, they have an elite recruiting class after elite recruiting class. They're going to plug and play. They're going to have guys. So I see a loss there. My second loss, looking at the schedule, and I took some time with this, and it was hard to find the second loss, but let's be real. And this might surprise some people. And there's always a surprise game that Oregon loses every year. You know, Stanford was this year. I do see them losing at Colorado. The reason being is because it's the second road game playing after at Cal. They play at Cal, and Cal's always a tough physical team, you know, and they play hard. And then going up in elevation to Colorado that second week, and these guys being young, that could be a second loss. And I was going to put Washington down, but I don't want to say Washington's going to beat us. I could never say that. So I put Colorado down. And then my third loss would be to Utah, just because I do think Utah is just a little bit a step ahead of Oregon at this point until we see proven otherwise. You know, they beat us twice, and I got to give respect to them at that. So wrapping up here, I want to appreciate you, you know, having time. I got one more question for you, and it's another personal question, nothing really about the Ducks, but is there any goals that you want to accomplish for yourself in 2022?
Yeah, man. That's a fun question for sure. I think I just want to get a better work-life balance is probably one of my biggest things. You know, it's a tremendous opportunity that I have to have this job, but you know, being able to work remotely, you know, I don't really have the typical 9 to 5, and I think I've burnt myself out before pretty bad. So just finding that balance of doing what I want as far as the stories that I'm covering. I think getting back into recruiting has been really refreshing for me. Um, but yeah, just trying to take advantage of more opportunities. I think staying inside a lot throughout the pandemic is an easy pattern to fall into. But just taking opportunities to get out with my friends and go go on some adventures or just hang out some more and spend more time with the people that matter, because it's so easy in today's day and age, and especially with the way media goes. I'm on Twitter constantly. Spend time with those that matter, and just really try to make sure that you're taking care of you before putting your work first and other things like that.
Yeah, 100%. I'd have to agree. Being on Twitter is one thing to get really wrapped up in for hours, especially when I go. I don't know if you ever go on the Spaces ever and listen up. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that can really get me intrigued for a while. But for me, I guess I'd have to go with I want to set myself up to go to college. I'm probably not going to go this year just because I'm trying to save a whole bunch of money and then move to my dad's up in Tacoma. My family lives here. I live on my own right now, but I'm planning on moving back with family, saving some money, and then eventually moving back to my dad's to go to college there, start getting my associates, start up, and then transfer, since I'm going to be in Washington, maybe to one of those universities. I don't see myself going to Washington, but if I needed to, I might need to. Who knows? I don't know the future, but that's my plan. I'm 22. I got out of high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I kind of just got into a job to make money. And I'm currently right now I'm in the medical field as a direct support professional, working with adults and kids. That's what I do. But it's not what I want to do forever. I love sports, and I always thought about what I wanted to do, and just watching what you guys do, I looked more into it and how do you get into it, and I was like, okay, journalism, broadcasting, go to school. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and try to give it a try. So for this year, I want to set myself up able to do that for sure.
Hell yeah, man. Definitely. Heck yeah. No, sorry. I don't know if
No, you're
people think
good.
that's swearing. I don't know if people think that's swearing, but no,
No,
I'm
you're
fired
good.
up. I'm fired up to hear it, man. You just gotta get after it. And definitely excited for you to, see what comes of your journey. And it's good to have a plan for sure. You just gotta try to stick to it and chip away at it bit by bit and see what works best for you. So I've been living in the Pacific Northwest for the last 5 years, so I know it's a cool spot to be for sure. And yeah, Washington's a cool spot as well. So I hope, wish you all the best with all of that, and definitely want to be kept up to date on that.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate helping me out in any way you can. You've been nothing but helpful, and me, someone who like was just watching you and didn't even like think about doing something like this, and now I'm doing it. It's just like it's awesome, and it's gonna be awesome to keep growing and keep growing my connections and keep growing as a journalism person, and keep trying to pursue it. And I just want to thank you for your time. And anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. And if there's anything you want to talk about, just let me know.
Right on, Dominic. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody wants to go check out Max Torres, he's the lead editor and publisher of Sports Illustrated Ducks Digest, if I got that correct.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and check out his work. The man covers everything. He's really professional, and he does really good work. Follow his Twitter, and yeah, let's go do it. Let's go Ducks, man. Have a good day, man.
All right. Appreciate it, Dominic.